Movie 7, Part 2. Steven.
He makes that noise at least 3 or 4 times during this movie. I just want the record to reflect.
Maybe he's working on like his tennis match sound.
No, look, I have watched a lot of tennis in my life. No tennis professional makes a...
He's not a tennis professional. Maybe he's trying to be and just can't get it right.
I'm not sure what's going on there.
Well, as our listeners know, we have been doing a rewatch of the movies, and we have reached the end.
Well, that's not true. We've reached the end of the Harry Potter films. I, for one, am down. We haven't talked about this, but I'm down to do the Fantastic Beasts movies if you are.
Well, we did talk about that.
Oh, we did.
It's actually in an episode.
As I was concluding that sentence and saw your face, it was coming back to me that we did have this exact discussion. So we have talked about that. Yeah. Whoops.
We should see that probably in March, April-ish.
Yeah, because the movie comes out April 15th.
Correct.
So I don't know how the days fall in April. Regardless, that'll be a late March, early April thing. Yes. Today, which is not late March, early April, we are discussing Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. This movie came out on July 15th, 2011. Its runtime was 2 hours and 10 minutes. It received an 8.1 out of 10 on IMDb and a 96% score on Rotten Tomatoes. It was once again directed by David Yates, cinematography by Eduardo Serra, music by, and I'm just going to plow through this name again, Alexandra Desplat. Dani, where were you on July 15th, 2011?
2011. I would have been in Oklahoma. Yeah, no, I lived in Oklahoma at that point. That feels weird. I'm like, did I really see the final Harry Potter movie in Oklahoma?
So what are your, if any, maybe, what are your memories of seeing the final installment?
I'm now questioning everything because I don't feel like I would have been in Oklahoma to see it, but I must have been. I actually don't remember seeing it. I know I saw it in theaters, but I don't actually have any memories of seeing it in theaters. What about yours?
Well, I have memories of seeing it. I think I've talked about this on the podcast before. I attended a summer camp going into the senior year of high school, program called North Carolina Governor School. Shout out Ken Jong, fellow Governor School alum. Really cool program in North Carolina. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Point is, myself and 2 friends snuck, and snuck is a relative term. We were just picked up by a friend of mine in a car, but we snuck out of Governor's School to go see the movie during the middle of the day. Yeah, I remember watching it. I remember the epilogue occurring. And then I just remember staring at the screen saying, like legitimately saying, not even just like a feeling, like I said out loud, I was like, well, that's over. And that was that.
And that's what we thought also. We thought that was that.
Well, regardless of, future, whatever, that was over, right? Mm-hmm. The original Harry Potter franchise is done at that point. And I remember feeling a very odd sense of emptiness and finality when I originally saw this movie.
What were your impressions now that you have rewatched it?
Yeah, I think this movie really benefits from part 1 in that part 1 set up a lot of the emotions and kind of put a lot of, move chess pieces around the board in a plot development, strategic way, to where, with the notable exception, but exception nevertheless, of Shell Cottage and Gringotts, this whole movie takes place at Hogwarts. This is it takes place over the span of a day and a half. The Shell Cottage stuff in the books, we know how much longer that is. In the movies, you could be led to believe that that was like a day, right? For all we know. And because of that, they're really able just to throw in a lot of classic action tropes. You've got kind of the building intensity and building tension music. You've got just action scenes where you've got quick, snappy dialogue followed by an immediate payoff. The color tone thing again in this movie irks me, but whatever. Overall, I liked it. I really did like it. It's a very different movie. I really like how they split up parts 1 and part 2, not just in terms of the content, but in terms of how they developed it.
Like right? Stylistically.
Stylistically, they're two very different pieces of a puzzle that work on their own, but when they come together, it's something that's really nice in my opinion.
I would agree with that. And I also like that, like this one, it starts out at the pace of part 1 with like the flashes of Voldemort getting the wand from the grave. So it has like a slower pace through the Shell Cottage scene. And then once you hit Gringotts, it's like full on action movie.
Do we want to, before we get into the plot here, play my favorite game of let's see how much movie contextual knowledge Dani knows from the year 2011?
Sure, but as we can tell, I don't remember a lot of 2011.
Well, you haven't remembered any of the past times we've done this, but it's still a fun exercise nevertheless. Would you care to guess where in the top 5 Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows Part 2 finished in terms of global box office revenue in 2011?
I'm going with spot 2.
You would be incorrect. Once again, this movie was number 1 overall. Would you care to have a guess as to, in either, no order here, numbers 2 and 3 on the list?
Nope.
Number 2 was a movie that I have not seen. I don't think I would watch with a gun to my head. Transformers Dark of the Moon, I believe was the title.
How did I get that high? I didn't even see that one. That was like
I'm imagining
number 3.
I'm imagining it did very well in Asia.
Probably.
I think
it's a summer release.
And I think the Transformers franchise is very well received in Asia. Number 3, any guesses?
No.
Do ye fear death, Mr. Turner? Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides came in at number 3. I will give
Harry
you some
numbers. Gone up against Pirates twice now.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Bruckheimer and David Heyman had themselves some battles here over the years. Would you care to wager a guess? I'll give you some numbers here as to what the global box office total was for Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows Part 2. Was it A, $997 million? Was it B, $1.3 billion? Was it C, $1.4 billion? Was it D, $1.45 billion?
Let's go with 1.3.
Ding, 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 ding. Correct. Da-da-da-da. I'm your man, Steve.
What do I win?
You win an entire podcast with a sleep-deprived, emotionally drained Steven. Congrats.
It's like every week.
Yeah, it's not the sexiest of prizes. I'll give you that. Let's dive in. Movie starts with what is quite possibly my favorite single piece of music from the entire film franchise. Lily's theme, the Desplat intro here for part 2 is morose and it is haunting. And what is that, like a cello or a bass? That kind of that bass line that originally, right? Da, 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 da. It is beautiful. And then when he brings in the rest of the complementing orchestra, there's a tension in the harmonies and it sets up the movie. To me, it's a bizarre comparison point, but it's almost like, like a music box when a music box plays, and it has that like beautiful, haunting, almost off key because it's like a little tiny music, like gorgeous. I love that. Once again, this movie has no color from the outset. It's Hogwarts, it's the Dementors, it's Snape, and it is not even black and white. It's kind of just like gray and white.
It just has this nice, like, slow, like, breathing room to catch you up on what has happened. And we don't actually hear dialogue. So we go through the flashes of Voldemort getting the wand. We go to Shuttle Cottage where we see Harry at Dobby's grave. We don't have any dialogue until Luna with the wind chimes. And she just talks about, like, that it's beautiful there. But we have, like, this nice space to, like, breathe into it and remember where we're at in the movie.
Did you bump against Harry's opening line? Harry says to Bill, "I need to talk to the goblin." Isn't it odd that, like, Harry just says the goblin? Especially because in the very next scene, Harry says, "You may not remember,"
yes.
which implies that Harry remembers.
Yeah.
And it's like Harry even says to him at Malfoy Manor, like, "Grip hook, it's odd to me that Harry is. There was a couple times throughout this film I found where either lines of dialogue or actions felt like they were placed into the wrong character's hands.
Yeah.
And very specifically, it feels like a lot of things that should have been Ron actions or dialogue were Harry.
Yeah, to me, that does seem a little more on par for Ron.
Right. Of course, like, it's confounding because Ron wouldn't be the one calling the shots here, but the dialogue itself, right?
Yeah.
Ron would say the goblin. Harry, it felt odd to me to not just say grip hook. Anywho, minor thing, but I wanted to see how you felt
because it's not like he's a prisoner. Like,
yeah, it was. Well, because in the books, and I'm not trying to go back to movie reviews that we did in the first couple of hours, like, in the book, yeah. No, but like in the books, that line makes sense because Harry has this whole inner monologue of should he talk to Ollivander or Grip Hook first? Because talking to either one signals his intention to pursue the Hallows or the Horcruxes.
Yes.
We don't get that in the movie. I'm fine with that. I don't need that. But that's where that line comes from.
Yeah, I don't think we need that debate in the movie.
Right. So, anywho, the Ollivander scene I just wrote down for Grip Hook and Ollivander. I just wrote down Grip Hook scene, Ollivander scene. Do you have anything you want to talk about that?
I did the same thing, and I just noted that Ollivander was talking about the Hallows.
Yeah, Warwick Davis.
I like how he performed that scene, though, Ollivander.
Yeah, both Warwick Davis and Jim Hurt. Is that correct? John
Hurt.
Yeah, Jay Hurt. We'll call him our good buddy JH. Both did
John
really,
Hurt,
really
the war
nice
doctor.
jobs. I don't know what that is.
I know you don't.
Okay. I thought they did great. But yeah, they were fine scenes. We move on. Before I talk about what I really want to talk about with Helena Bonham Carter and all of this, I just want to say one of the things I noted throughout this entire movie that starts really evidently here with this set of scenes, the sound effects and the way that I don't think they're probably using sound Foley people anymore because it's probably all digital, but whether it's the rustling of the leaves when they apparate in the Diagon Alley, the act of apparition itself, the sword going into the bag, Bellatrix's boots kind of hitting the cobblestone pavement. All throughout this movie, the sound people were just earning every dollar they were paid because they give the sound of like just, kind of the world a lot of space in this film.
Yes.
What'd you think of Helena Bonham Carter portraying Emma Watson, portraying Hermione Granger, portraying Bellatrix Lestrange?
It's a masterclass in acting. It's one of my favorite scenes to watch just because of how well she does. Even like the little things, like there's a point where she's walking into Gringotts and she trips because she's wearing heels. Yep, that one. It
worked for me, though. I'm not saying it didn't. It worked for me not just because she'd be uncomfortable in the heels, but also because in my mind, and this is just yet one of many tie-ins to Pirates of the Caribbean in my head, Bellatrix Lestrange is not dissimilar to Jack Sparrow in that whether they're insane and they teeter on the brink of sanity or they're sane and they teeter on the brink of insanity, both physically and emotionally. They're always a little bit kind of off kilter.
Yeah.
And so I could see, like when she walks out of the Azkaban cell, her first appearance, and Azkaban's blown up. Like she kind of does that, teeter totter Jack Sparrow. Yeah. Anyway, it worked for me. Helena Bonham Carter. A question for you here. Actually, this is a big philosophical question I had when watching this movie. Certainly, this is not the first time I've ever heard this question raised. I'd like to think I'm an original, innovative genius, but we all know I'm not. 2 questions here. First, Hermione's voice being used with Bellatrix. We talked about this last time with the trio at the Ministry. My question for you is, are we supposed to assume that Bellatrix, Polyjuice Hermione Bellatrix, is speaking with Hermione's voice? Or are we to assume that we are hearing it that way because the movie makers didn't want people to think, is that actually Bellatrix? My question, I guess the better way of asking it, are the goblins hearing Hermione's voice or Bellatrix's voice?
I feel like the answer is actually the second part, and that they're doing it so people don't get confused on who is Polyjuice as who. Okay,
that's really dumb. I don't like that.
It is dumb. You know how I feel about the change of voices. I think it's stupid. I've thought it's stupid since Chamber of Secrets.
So then my second question about this Gringotts scene, again, philosophical. When they do that, when Harry does the Imperious thing, which shout out to Jason from Binge Mode, because again, not something I came up with, but it looks like Bogrod is like sniffing a fart. Bogrod is the only one who sniffs it. The goblin banker sitting behind Bogrod does not have the same, same. Mm-hmm. But he has no problem letting Bogrod through after he's been Imperious. But that doesn't make any sense because let's just say you and I are sitting here together, and I say, "Hey, Dani, give me $1 million." You say, "No, I'm not going to do that." Right? Then someone Imperiouses you. But no one else sees it. None of our listeners see that, right? Wouldn't one of the listeners be like, "Hey, wait a minute. She said no. Why is he getting $1 million?" The other goblin is not Imperious. I don't understand that.
My assumption would be that the other goblin is a lesser goblin.
But there's no debate about it.
There is no debate about it.
The scene is literally he sniffs the Imperious fart, turns around and says, "Follow me."
Yeah.
There's no goblin being
choice.
The other goblin's not tapping him on the shoulder being like, "Hey man."
What happened here?
I didn't understand that. I guess I had 3 questions, not 2. My final question. Is Ron, in your opinion, a talented, skillful wizard?
Talented? I'd put him on average. He's not a poor wizard. Well, he's monetarily poor, but he's not he would be average. He's an average student, mid-range, wouldn't pass the advanced exams.
Am I correct in believing that the unforgivable curses require not just, as Bellatrix once put it, you have to really mean it, not just determination, but also a fair amount of skill?
Yes.
How does it make any sense at all? I mean, look, it's beyond comprehension that these children who believe in humanity are just casting unforgivable curses left and right all of a sudden. But it begs further belief that Ron is just super casually flicker the wrist Imperio once they get down past the thief's downfall. I don't get that.
I don't understand that either. We did one of the comments I had, and we already skipped this section, but Ron has zero chill when he's just "Harry, what do we do?" Which bothers me because I'm also y'all didn't come up with a backup plan.
Well, of course they didn't come up with a backup plan. That doesn't surprise me. But Ron has no chill, and then 2 minutes later is "Hey, Imperio. Hey, Imperio. Hey, Imperio." What? I didn't get that.
They were throwing some curses around a little too easily. Wait, did they practice Imperio in Moody's class? Or was that?
They did all 3 of them in the class.
Well, 2. Oh no, they were learning how to fight it, not cast it, right?
Well, that's in the books. We can't.
Right. I apologize.
In the movies, they show all 3 in the class.
Yeah.
I don't know. Right. That felt odd.
Yes. So we're in the vault. Any comments?
Well, what I'll say, not about the vault specifically, but about the whole set of scenes in and around the vault, are they bring me to a couple different places in the real world, right? So first, watching the trio and Griphook go on that cart, through Gringotts, obviously reminds me of Universal Orlando's Escape from Gringotts ride. It's actually remarkable how similar it looked. I feel like they might have stolen some of the shots, especially for when the trolls come up and Bill's. The
buzzer similar. Also, yeah.
That was remarkable. Going sequentially here, the next thing that really reminded me of the studio tour at Leavesden in London, a thing that I will again remind Dani that I have been to multiple times and she has not. The Gringotts Set is a newer addition to the tour. It was put in, I think, late 2019 or very early 2020. I forget the exact date, but I saw it early 2020. Really cool stuff there. You get to see the actual Gringotts Set. You get to go into some of the vault setups they had, and then you get to see the movie magic of how they did the dragon exploding through the main hall. The last thing that reminded me of the real world in kind of the Gringotts scenes is after the dragon bursts through the ceiling of Gringotts, right as it's about to take off, after Hermione does the relatio, you get this beautiful shot for like split second right underneath. If you're looking straight up, 180 degrees or whatever the math, right? Looking straight up, and you see the dome of Gringotts and the underside of the dragon, and it looks just like what you see at Universal at Diagon Alley. I have taken that photo 1.5 million times. I've walked around that area. It was spot on. Did you catch that? Because I've never caught that when watching this movie.
Caught that, and then I was looking, because we have been talking about the park and what we would like to see in it, and all the rooftops and everything, and how similar to Diagon it really does feel.
Otherwise, yeah, that's all I got for Gringotts.
I really love the look of the scene when they drop into the water off the dragon.
I wrote that too. I wrote double check mark, really good scene.
All the way to the point where Harry surfaces, that whole little transition. because I love the way they twine.
No, there's a movie word. It's interstitial shot. Damn it! The word's escaping me, but how they cut back and forth between Horcruxes and Harry struggling underwater, and then as Harry starts to come out from underwater, they slow down the frames to where it's not slow motion, but it's not regular speed. And then once he bursts through the water, the tension is lifted, the mental images go away. Exactly. He caught his breath almost. Yeah. And I thought that was beautiful. Here's another question for you I have. Semi-philosophical one. Voldemort doesn't wear shoes?
He doesn't like shoes.
Because he's walking through Gringotts or Malfoy Manor or wherever he's slaughtering everybody.
Covered in blood and barefoot.
Right. And so then it raises a couple questions. Are we to assume that he just goes around without shoes? Does he not get glass or isn't that painful? That's bizarre. But then that leads you to the question of, well, if he were to wear shoes, that would be a talking point, because what shoes would Voldemort wear? Because then it's bizarre to think about. Because is he wearing Chucks? Is he wearing Nikes? Chucks. Is he wearing dress shoes? So then my question for you is, if Voldemort were wearing shoes, what shoes would he be wearing?
He's probably wearing some fancy ass shoes to show status.
But is he? Because right now he's not wearing anything. And the status that symbolizes is homelessness.
Yes, but if he's in shoes and he gets to choose his shoes, he's not going for Chucks or sneakers.
I'm not doubting. I'm not disagreeing with you. But I'm saying, is he? We don't know. It's a fascinating question.
Yeah. Well, because those listeners, what shoes would Voldemort wear?
Listeners, Creating Magic Podcast at gmail.com, at Creating Magic Podcast on Instagram. What shoes does Voldemort wear? I think he wears almost like a ballet slipper. Not like a pink one. I think they're black or like super dark green.
He's rocking some Rothies, is what you're thinking.
I don't know what that is. But my sister growing up had these little slippers, and they had like a little tiny little bow right in the front. I don't think he has the bow. I think he probably says, "Ugh," and like, removes that. But I think he wears these little dainty but durable black ballet shoes. Slippers. Not those tap things that go nuts. Like, I think he wears these little...
He's in Rothies.
Sure. Here's the thing. A thing I noted probably about 3 or 4 times as we went throughout this movie. A lot of really great guest casting coming in. So the first one here, Kieran Hines, who listeners may know as the King Beyond the Wall, Mance Rayder, who plays Aberforth. And I remember when I finally pieced that together watching Game of Thrones, because I was watching it, I was like, this guy looks very familiar. Where do I know him from? And I was watching and I'm watching. And in Game of Thrones, he just kind of wears like some basic clothes, doesn't have a massive Dumbledore beard, right? Like, looks very normal. Yes. I mean, normal for Game of Thrones. And so I was like, where the hell do I know this guy from? And I think eventually he I forget if he said a phrase or kind of gave like that stare, that Aberforth stare. And I was like, oh, it's him. And so anywho, that was a big moment for me.
And then my guy, Neville, comes.
Who does not look like a high school student. I'm sorry. I mean, look, none of them really look like they're high schoolers anymore. Neville looks like a full-grown ass man. Yeah. Which isn't a problem, but it does take me out of the movie a little bit. I'm not going to lie. Like, when I see them come on screen, I'm like, oh, you don't look like you're 17, 18. I'm sorry.
I'm curious how old they actually were when they were filming.
I think they had to be like 20. They're supposed to be 17. I'm going to go 21.
22.
Did not look like someone who was... Oh, no. I'm a big fan of this Room of Requirement scene.
With all the hammocks.
Well, yeah, I don't. That's kind of. It's like they're on a ship, like they're on the Black Pearl. Another time. I'm just saying. No, there's just a string of dialogue here that I think is just absolutely hilarious. So when Harry's like, "We're looking for something," and what is it? I don't know. Where is it? I don't know. I know that's not much to go on. And Seamus, that's nothing to go on. Like that, just absolutely phenomenal. Then again, Rupert Grint. Ron with some of the best lines I think in the entire series. Can someone tell me what a bloody diadem is? Right, that's from the books, classic, whatever. But then 6 months she hasn't seen me. It's like I'm Frankie first year, and then Seamus goes, he goes, I'm her brother. Seamus goes, she got 6 of those, only one Harry. Shut up. And he just goes, shut up, Seamus. And this is actually, you haven't seen Sopranos, have you?
No.
Yeah, we've talked about this. For any of the listeners who have seen The Sopranos, this is something I was thinking about today a lot when I was watching this movie. Robert Eiler portrays Anthony Jr., plays Tony Soprano's son in the TV show. And he portrays this just obnoxious child. Like, you're meant to hate him. And he does it so well that, like, people think he's a terrible actor because he portrayed this shit of a child so well. And I don't think it's to the same extent as Rupert Grint, but I think a lot of people don't give Rupert Grint the chops and the praise that he rightfully deserves from these films because he kind of plays like the simple friend and doesn't have a lot of necessarily dynamic acting, but he nailed, like, I think it would only take one hand to count the number of times I've been disappointed by Rupert Grint in the entire series, whereas I don't think I have enough fingers and toes to count the number of times I've loved his acting. Right? Because you think about it, like, Rat Dan, people think is doing a ton of bizarre work, but he's doing work that people seem to really enjoy. Mm-hmm. Everybody loves Emma Watson. Rupert Grint, partially, I would assume, largely by choice, because I'm sure he's had offers, but, hasn't done a ton of work. And people don't look back necessarily overly fondly on his body of work in Potter. But I think Rupert Grint did a remarkable job. I just think you're meant to not necessarily be wowed by his acting, because his acting is very natural. His acting is not acting, for lack of a better phrase.
I haven't watched any of his stuff, but I know he's been in some things.
He's doing some stuff recently. He's come back on the...
Well, he did the ABC Murders, I think it was. And I didn't ever watch any. But it's funny because that is something that seems to be up my alley with the genre. But
yeah, I mean, you know, when you make tens of millions of dollars as a teenager, I am sure that you are able to rest on your proverbial laurels and choose not to work.
And then you can choose what you want to work on.
Which is what Radcliffe has very clearly done. But I would also argue, in a way, perhaps less harsh than Robert Eyler, because Robert Eyler, you know, AJ, Anthony Jr., is one of the most reviled TV characters, like children TV characters in modern TV. I don't think it's as severe as that. But I do think there is a little bit of a perception about Rupert Grint's acting that exists that is not, that's wrong. It's not rightfully earned.
He's currently in a TV series that looks like it's on Apple TV,
Disney Plus.
I know. Well, there's a
Get
plus
with
sign
it.
image. Servant. So he's been on that since 2019, and it right now shows current through 2021. So that is the most recent thing that he has done.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing work again. It's fast. You know, there's no science behind, did he choose not to work by choice, or did he choose not to work because this type of stuff he's getting offered was crap? I can't tell you that, but I am pro Rupert Grint is the moral of this rant. I think he does a remarkable job. I think, if nothing else, across the series, this little vignette of scenes here really speaks to it.
Yes. How did you feel about the coordinated marching into the Great Hall?
Well, what I don't like is that a lot of the deleted scenes that didn't make it are out there. And so I've seen those many, many times on like late night YouTube or TikTok or Twitter dives. And those are really good because you get, in some of the deleted ones, Ginny and Harry together in that phalanx kind of holding hand. Like, it just adds another nice little layer.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with it. I think, I don't know. I was going to say it's a little surreal that once they're in the Great Hall, no one notices Harry before he pops out. That said, you're probably so moved to fear that you're paralyzed looking forward. So,
and everyone was looking down.
Yeah.
Very noticeably down. And honestly, he's probably surrounded by people that knows.
Well, Griffin, yeah, right. But at the same time, he's not 6'8" like LeBron is, but he's the LeBron James of his world. Whether he wants to attract attention or not, I have to imagine wherever he goes, he can't really hide.
Not really. And also, I'm like, if Ron's in that crowd, he's going to be super noticeable. Tall, lanky, redheaded kid.
I don't think he was, though. Didn't he come in with the group in the back?
Oh, yeah, he did.
That just kind of stands there weirdly and doesn't take any positions of offense or
just kind of appear until Ginny jumps in.
So another really great casting moment, another great Game of Thrones crossover. Amicus Caro, one of the Caro twins, the male of the two, is portrayed by Ralph Ineson, who plays one of the Ironborn, Dagmar Cleftjaw, in Game of Thrones. So that is your second really cool minor casting moment that I saw.
Students out of bed.
And he doesn't do the weird run this time.
No.
I didn't. Yeah, maybe he's older and his bones are more frail. Yeah, and of course, Walder Frey makes his return. Alan Rickman, holy shit. Yes. I don't know. Like, I know for TV episodes, for Emmys or whatever, right? That's what it is. TVs or Emmys.
Yeah. Yes.
You have to, like, actors don't submit for an entire season. They submit, like, they're allowed to pick 2 or 3 episodes to submit for consideration. I don't know how it works for movies and Oscars, but, you know, whether it's the whole movie or you have to pick certain scenes. But holy shit, Alan Rickman, that scene should have won him all the awards. That was insane. Insane.
And it also had like a lot of like echo of the throwback to the turn to page 394.
Yeah, it's Alan Rickman, and maybe this is just my worldview of things I've seen, but John C. McGinley are two actors who are able to manipulate syllables, intonation, and loudness of their voice, for lack of a better word, to absolutely, like the texture. It's beautiful, and the way they do it is just it's masterful, right? They can turn the most mundane of sentences into this thrilling, tension-laden, haunting phrase, and it's unlike again Alan Rickman and Johnny C, who people may know as Dr. Cox from Scrubs.
He's the type of person that would never need to actually raise their voice. Like, it's more terrifying for him to whisper than it would be to yell.
I will say, if at this point in the movie, either within the world of the movie, Snape, or meta commentary, the directors, were trying to maintain Snape's secrecy about his true intention, he's very obvious with how he takes out the Carrow twins before he escapes. Mm-hmm. Like, he takes McGonagall's fire thing that she casts at him and whirls it around his head and literally flicks his wand twice at either of them.
Yep.
It's not very subtle, is all I'm saying. Like, if I'm either a student in that room or I'm a first-time watcher of the movie and I don't know how this plays out, I'm like, well, they say he's the bad guy, but he just knocked those two bad people out. What? I'm curious.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
One of my favorite lines of the movie.
Oh, is it the same one I wrote down? Go for it. I'll do it in the brogue after you do it.
I will let you go ahead.
No, you go first.
I'm not going to do any accents, so you should just...
Well, you do it in normal, and I'll do my awful accent.
I always wanted to use this spell.
Oh, that's not the one I wrote.
What? Which one did you do?
Potter, it's good to see you.
Oh.
And then before, I always wanted to use that spell. You're actually giving us permission to blow it up? Boom? Boom! But yeah, it really great. Really
She's in
great.
like so little of this whole movie, but that whole section is just wonderful.
I can't even do it. A particular proclivity for pyrotechnic. It's great stuff. She nails it. You're absolutely right. Here's a question. When Flitwick, Slughorn, Molly, and co. are putting up the shield, did you hearken back to any other pop culture instances that looked remarkably similar to that? Because I sure as hell did.
It's very similar to Avengers, but I know you haven't seen most of those.
That may be playing off of what I'm thinking of. So keep going back in time.
I can't think of anything else. Like, now that Avengers is stuck in my head.
Misa save Hogwarts! It looks just like the bubble shield that the Gungans put over all their stuff when they fight in the Phantom Menace.
It really does.
It's like the exact same thing. It's like this membrane energy shield that's like bluish, kind of energy yellowish, and is pliable seemingly. So I thought Darth Jar Jar was going to be there on the battlefield of Hogwarts.
Maybe he was. Maybe he was in that crowd of a million followers.
Yeah, how many fucking Death Eaters are there?
No.
There's so many.
They all look like 80s punk rocker kids.
I was thinking they all looked like baddies in your traditional British comedy or British television show. Like they all look like they have like a Scouser or like a East London accent, right? I'm here to do some bad stuff to that Harry Potter, right?
Yeah.
Like, and they all kind of have upturned collars and skinny jeans, and Yeah, anyhow.
So much like Maggie Smith, another character who I love every line she uses in this movie. I love when Luna is running up the stairs and is finally just like, Harry Potter, you listen to me right now.
Her accent does that for me. It's
yes.
She does it almost like you were saying with Snape, where he doesn't have to raise his voice. Different point here, but same kind of concept in that she doesn't have to be like kind of like Molly Weasley with the Howler, where there's different levels. She does the same level and the same almost monotone, but at an elevated pitch.
Yes. Well, and she's also the type of person, like, there are people out there that are genuinely nice and you don't expect them to raise their voice. But when they do, you like stop. And that's the type of like thing that's happening, because she's like, Harry, listen to me. And he's just ignoring her and being like, later. And then she yells and it like causes him to be like, wait, she knows something. And
I'm out of order here. This is where I ordered myself cheesecake, and I think the cheesecake arrived right around this time, because I have notes and they continue for at least about a page more, but they definitely get a little out of order. So next thing I have, you tell me if this makes any sense chronologically or not. Helena Ravenclaw.
Yes, and do you have the actor shout out? Because I have the actor shout out for this.
Where do you know her from? Because I know her from somewhere very specific.
Well, she is from a rom-com with David Tennant, but I know her because she is the voice of Merida in Brave from Disney.
Okay, I did not have that either. I know her as Margaret Schroeder née Thompson née Schroeder, whichever. She marries Thompson. She was Schroeder, whichever way the name goes. From Boardwalk Empire, Kelly Mcdonald, who's a remarkable actress. A little quibble I have with this part, though. We've heard ghosts talk before in Harry Potter, Sir Nicholas.
Yes.
And we've seen Sir Nick rendered on screen before, visually.
Yes.
I didn't understand why her voice has that like reverb quality to it when she's talking, almost like how I would have anticipated a spirit talking had I not already heard spirits talking in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And so that didn't make sense. And then the way they render her, where she kind of speeds off and she almost becomes like a ball of light, which again, we've seen ghosts go through walls and through tables and all this stuff in the movies before. They don't do that. And so it was odd to me. I thought her performance was great, but the effects of the voice and the visual were odd.
Yeah, well, and even with her voice, like I noticed that like her accent isn't as thick as I'm used to hearing from her.
Well, compared to Brave, you know.
Well, yeah, Brave, but there's other things because she is of Scottish descent, and it just like wasn't as strong as I've heard. You should YouTube Margaret Thompson, Boardwalk Empire, because her accent, she portrays an Irish woman in Boardwalk Empire, and this sounded remarkably similar to that. Okay.
And I know that Boardwalk Empire was happening right around this time too, in terms of its filming and presence in pop culture. So I can't speculate. Oh, I can speculate. I don't know for certain. It sounds very similar. So that's kind of where I assumed. Then you've got Voldy saying, "They never learn," and it's just such a cliche line. Like he's staring at the school, and we get it because it's a place of education. Do you have the Chamber of Secrets next?
My next line, the next note I wrote says, "Chamber of Secrets, insert Stephen comments here."
That's
all I need to say about it.
All I wrote for this is, I wrote two things. I wrote ejaculation/orgasm. And then I wrote, how do they get out? Because we know how they get into the Chamber of Secrets. Presumably they take the sink tunnel slide thing and it, whee, into the dead snakeskins. But they escape the chamber in Chamber of Secrets off of Fawkes's tail. How do Hermione and Ron leave the Chamber of Secrets this time? Because let's be clear, they've never been there before. Presumably, all Harry told them was, "Hey, Fawkes carried us out." It's not like Harry was like, "Hey, Fawkes carried us out," but I definitely saw a ladder over there. They get into the chamber. I can believe that easily enough. How do they get out?
I think mentally, I just assume magic that at year 2 Harry would not have known.
What magic have we seen that would be able to transport them within the confines of Hogwarts, mind you, so there can't be aberration, up the massive...
But Voldemort was operating everywhere.
I didn't understand that.
I didn't either. I was like, you can't operate in Hogwarts.
Maybe that's because Snape relaxed the rule, or because
I was wondering. I'm like, well, maybe it's broken now and it doesn't have that enchantment. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they Wingardium Leviosa to rock up the slide. I don't know.
A rock?
I don't know, the boulder.
But how do they get themselves?
They sit on the boulder. I don't know. I have no idea. Some form of magic.
You have no idea is the answer.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. So I want to bring something.
That one I didn't read into too much.
But it's a question that logically,
valid.
Right? It's like, okay, well, that doesn't. Anyhow, I want to talk about something here, and I need you and Paula and everybody else who has an affinity for Neville Longbottom to sit down and take a deep breath.
Okay.
Per this movie, Neville Longbottom is a mass murderer.
Yep.
Neville Longbottom, who, again, similar to Ron, has not shown a ton of aptitude for skillful magic, is running across a bridge, firing spells over his shoulder wordlessly that blow up said bridge, which is already magic that I don't believe he has the capability to produce. But the result of said magic is that those 65,000 Death Eaters who just appear all of a sudden and are chasing him across the bridge die. They fall. They're done. Neville's a killer.
Yep.
That's going to sit with you for the rest of your life. You're not going to wake up the next day and be completely clear of conscience there.
Who isn't a killer by the end of this movie?
You seem remarkably calm about this.
Well,
we do not explicitly see Hermione, Ron, or for that matter, Harry kill anybody. We don't explicitly see lot.
I was thinking about this, and this is later on in the Room of Requirement. Crabbe is out there throwing out killing curses, and Ron, Hermione, and Harry are still Expelliarmus.
Yeah, we don't explicitly see a lot of characters in this movie killed. Where even if they weren't casting a killing curse,
yeah,
again, pushing someone off a ledge, right? There's a lot of times where you could have seen people fall to their death or whatever, where we don't explicitly see people kill or be killed. What we do see is Neville, who, again, I don't think has the magic capabilities to be exploding bridges.
See, in my mind, I don't know why I went this way, because now I think about it, I'm well, that's Muggle stuff. I'm I thought because Seamus is the pyrotechnic, that he wired the bridge, and in my head, Neville was just lighting what Seamus had done.
3 movies ago, Neville was unable to do Expelliarmus.
But he learned before the end of that movie, and he got a wand that worked for him.
You're telling me that Neville went from not being able to do the most basic spell to being able to trigger explosives? It's
a lighter. Neville also
he's running. He is running. Try to
also learn to run. So
I'm saying you're take anything that you're good at. Whatever it is. try to do said thing while running. It's infinitely more difficult. So he's running. He is casting over his shoulder wordless magic, nonverbal magic. That's a whole lot of skill. And I'm not trying to
Neville hate.
No, it seems deeply impractical. Like, again, using what knowledge I have from the books, the art of casting nonverbal magic is apparently very difficult and something that is reserved, if not for the most skilled wizards, at least for the ones that are like a B plus and up. No shots at Neville, who's a wonderful human being. I don't think he's a B plus and up kind of wizard in terms of his skill and acumen. That's all.
Sure.
He kills a bunch of people, though.
Yeah.
I thought he'd be more upset that he killed a bunch of people. But
he killed a bunch of people, but I still like Neville.
I'm not saying you have to dislike him. It's just like, it was the first time I processed that.
He also saved a bunch of people.
Okay, trolley problem. Are you going to... Jeez. Shout out to my ex-girlfriend from high school / early college who is quite possibly Twitter's most ardent bioethicist who exclusively talks about the trolley problem. Bioethics Barbie out there on social media. We love you. And by we, I mean someone. And by love, I mean not me. Anywho, the Ginny kiss. Awful. Hated it.
Weird.
Don't want to see that again. Then I just wrote room of requirement, fire, montage.
Oh, I did write that. I really liked when Ron's running and he's like, it goes fire. And he's just like sprinting because it just really made me chuckle.
Yeah, that's my girlfriend, you numpties. Yeah. That was good. Let's see here. What comes next? Let me turn on to my third page of notes now, listeners. The montage happens. That's where it's like da 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 da, and there's spiders and Lav dies.
I really because like you hear the music mostly, but and everything else is like muted. And I actually really like that type of effect for how they're doing it, but it did feel very action movie reminiscent.
Yeah, it did. Snape and Voldemort at the boathouse.
I was going to just ask you if Lavender is dead.
Oh, she's dead. Well, in the books, it's a little unclear, right? In the movies, her eyes are glazed open, and then Pavarti and whoever zip her body back. She's gone.
She's dead. Shout out to our Lavender cosplay, Magic Under the Stairs.
Amanda, I love you. Am I going to see you at the parks on Thursday? I doubt it. By the time this airs, it'll already be gone. But, know that if you hear this, I was thinking about you. And that's all that matters.
She did, in fact, lay in the middle of Hogwarts at one point in the parks to do the dead Lavender scene. We talked about this on Sunday about how weird it was when she was like laying on the ground at the parks for a picture for the scene.
I'm sure Universal staff love her. Snape and Voldy, boathouse?
Yes.
Perfect scene.
I had a question, but then I kind of answered it myself because they don't have to kill the person. They just have to disarm them.
Yeah. So.
And in my head, I was in my head for some reason, I was thinking kill. And I was like, but Nagini's the one who did the fatal blows.
Well, that's just it is the actual quote unquote rules. You just have to take the wand from its previous owner. Because the wand is so powerful and because it's happened so many times in history, people, the mythology of it is that you have to murder to actually acquire the power of it. That is not in practice true. But
even so, Voldemort doesn't do the murdering.
Well, he would contend that he ordered the murdering through a semi-sentient being that has his soul imbued in it. This is a legal philosophical question, but yeah, I thought that scene was just perfect.
Oh, it's so good.
Absolutely perfect. Yeah, this is where my notes trail off because I get more into the cheesecake.
Yeah.
So I literally write Great Hall equals Lav dead, Fred dead, Remus Tonks dead. Then I have Pensieve, Lily Snape, Harry, Ron, Hermione, goodbye. And that's the last notes I have for all the movie. So
before the boat scene, there's a moment and you see like the confirmation in Hermione's face that she knows Harry is a Horcrux. And that was like a moment I had not like really connected previously. When he's sitting on the ground, Harry.
Doing his like post-nut
and
clarity
they pan
thing.
to Hermione and you see like this light bulb go off that goes, yes, this is proven what I've been believing all along. Pensieve, Harry is a Horcrux. And now we go to open at the close. The snitch, Harry's dead. Harry's in King's Cross. I'm just waiting till you have something to say about any of these moments.
I've got nothing to say about any of these. I mean, when I see the King's Cross scene, all I can think now about is Puffs. Shout out to Puffs the Play and all the amazing creative talents over there. Great scene in Puffs, less great in the movie Harry Potter, very, very great in the book Harry Potter. That's my analysis on that.
And then our beautiful moment with Narcissa and saving Harry.
Helen McCrory, Peaky Blinders, Peaky fucking Blinders. Yeah, that's a touching scene.
It is, and this is where the point where you start seeing like Lucius is definitely like he is no longer in charge of this family. And then you see the moment where Neville has the sword, but you don't see it, but you have like the sort of Gryffindor sound. It's the sound because you never see the sword, and like he looks at it and he knows what he has, but he hasn't done anything with it yet.
Mm-hmm. That's my Harry Potter is dead laugh noise.
He's dead. Hagrid carries him. Draco and Mom ignore Lucius. Voldemort's smiling.
Yeah, this has been talked about so many times. This is not an original take whatsoever, but Ray Fiennes was given some creative liberties to film that exchange with Tom Felton with Draco any number of ways. And this one take, he decided to hug him and did that very awkward smile and hug. And that's, of course, the one they used. And it's just remarkable.
It was, I think it might have been Tom Felton talking about that scene, is that how it was perceived when it was seen on screen in the UK versus the US. And like in the US, everyone kind of chuckled at it. But in the UK, everyone was like, like more shocked.
Oh, Brits and your modern sensibilities.
Harry's alive.
Yeah, he's alive. That's him shooting the fire at the corners of Hogwarts.
Not my daughter.
I hate that line in the movie, not gonna lie. Almost because kind of going back to what we were talking about with Alan Rickman, where he doesn't have to raise his voice or impart any form of verbal kind of vocal aggression to convey his sentiment. In the book, and I'm not saying in the book, to me, the line's a lot more powerful if it's said with just a lot more cold fury than like what Molly Weasley does. And I think Julie Walters is an incredible actress. It was a little too like Wild West actory, right? It was like, I've got a big line and a big scene and I'm going to really go over the top with it. And it felt too much to me, I guess.
I was fine with the line just because historically Molly Weasley yells. But
well, if she's going to yell, she should yell. Instead, it's this very actory. Not my daughter, you bitch. And like, it was just, I don't know. It was too, it didn't sit right with me.
I took more issue with Bellatrix like exploding into a million pieces.
Her corset just causing her to disintegrate. I didn't fully understand.
The corset like shrunk and then she went.
Yeah. At that point, I was getting my hopes up to see a very unclothed Helena Bonham Carter when the corset started to go, but then she just disintegrated, and that didn't play out for me. which was
Voldemort and Harry jump off a roof.
Yeah, and he calls him Tom, and the whole thing. I just don't. I remember seeing / hearing that from the promos like 1,000 freaking times.
Yeah.
Let's go out the way we started it, Tom, together. It's stupid. That whole thing. Because I've thought about this a lot. When Voldemort is just kicking the crap out of him on all those weird kind of gangplank bridge walkway things that don't make a lot of sense from an architectural standpoint. To me, it feels like they're trying, and maybe I'm overthinking this. It's always felt like they're trying to convey that, like, at the end of the day, in private, Voldemort is very much a half-blood. He's a muggle born, right? He's someone who came from the muggle world.
Yeah.
And at his core, he reverts back to muggle instincts, which is to beat the shit out of you with his hands and feet and not with magic. And that's how I always interpreted that. I don't understand the really bizarre floating oracle with his robe tentacles strangling Harry thing.
Yeah, that was weird.
It felt like they had good budget and they had like the creative team, like the special effects team or visual effects team was like, hey, this is the last movie. We just got the craziest shit that we've had on our whiteboard for the past 10 years. It's got to go. We got nowhere else to put this. And so they were like, yeah, let's throw it in. Let's do this weird face melding thing where they're flying through the sky and his face becomes his face. Yeah, do it.
One of those scenes that I did enjoy, and this is like backing up a bit, is when the guy's coming after Kingsley and Kingsley like slow motions him and then he like flies back. I really did enjoy that one.
Yeah.
Nagini is dead. Go Neville.
Yeah, Nagini's dead. Voldemort has... Yeah, I didn't like how they re-envisioned this scene for the movie.
One of the like things about Voldemort was that at his core, he was still a person. So making him like disappear into a tiny million pieces is not as impactful. It sounds really weird to be like, not as impactful as seeing his dead body on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, not even, I agree. Not even that, just the staging of it. Like staging it outside in this made-up courtyard. I don't know. Would have felt more powerful to me maybe if it was in the Great Hall. Because, again, we've been told and we know from both what we've been told but also what we've seen that like Hogwarts is very much home for both of these people. And the Great Hall is one of the first places they go as first years. That's like a recognition of the home and comfort. And instead it's this presumably shattered, beaten to shit Great Hall. And the two of them are there. I don't even need everyone around them like it is in the books. Even if it was just the two of them. I don't know. That would have felt more powerful. The filmmakers could have done some fun stuff with the light through the broken stained glass. I don't know. I'm not a movie producer. Guys, I'm just throwing out ideas.
Filch sweeping up the rubble.
Yeah, that just felt mean. It's like... We know the guy's a useless squib, but...
Maybe just what he knows, and that's what he chose to do. He's just like, I guess this is my job.
Sure. I guess. I don't know. But it's even just like, the battle had just ended. Like, it's not like that was a couple days later.
Yeah, no. It was just like, it just ended. You can go take a breather. Like, go find the Slytherins in the dungeons.
Right, there's so many super morbid metaphors, but like the second after, like the actual second after a natural disaster, people aren't like for vanity's sake. Yeah, for vanity's sake, removing dust and debris.
And he also like found the broom.
Yeah, like Phil, you got to triage stuff here, my guy. Like, yeah, that's important, but compared to like 55 other things that I'm sure you could be doing, it's not up there.
Yeah. Okay, so when this started, you asked me my memories of first seeing this movie. This is one of the strongest memories of seeing this movie. The one thing I hated the most that they changed from book to movie was that Harry doesn't fix his own wand.
That doesn't make any sense.
It bothers me so much. Not necessarily like that he snaps the Elder Wand, but that he doesn't fix his own wand, because I felt like that would have been like a powerful moment. And I remember, because this is how like the movie essentially ends, being so mad at the end of the movie because I'm like, now he has no wand.
Yeah, I have no problem with him snapping the Elder Wand, but he needs to do that after he's repaired his.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they don't need to revisit Gambin and the grave and all that stuff to put the wand back. But you have to fix yours. Otherwise, how the hell do you get through the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
And then 19 years later.
People like, maybe because of Cursed Child, I don't know. People love to make a big deal out of this scene. For better or for worse, It's fine. I don't know.
It's fine. I don't have any qualms with it. I think it's like a nice little tail end to be like, and they lived.
Yeah, I don't think Ginny would be looking like that.
No.
If you ask me, I'm sorry, Potter kid. I think I cursed earlier, though. So at this point, we're already in. Ginny's a MILF. At least she should be. And Ginny is a very pretty woman in this epilogue, but she's a lot more like
matronly
and like handsome, which is like not like Ginny went on to be a professional Quidditch player. Ginny, again, I'm not doing this.
She's not rocking the Karen cut. Like, it's
9:59 at night. I'm not going through all the reasons why this film completely ruined the portrayal of Ginny Weasley for me. It wasn't great. Who, in your humble opinion, won this movie?
The trio and Bellatrix, but the trio for the most part. I think you kind of have to lump them together. Harry definitely at the top of that list. I think it was just a powerful showing from them. It was still very focused on them. We did have more characters than we did last movie, but it's the ending. The trio has to win. You?
Alan Rickman. He's been pitch perfect in every scene he's had across this entire series.
Very true.
But he has more. Every action Alan Rickman has made on screen over the first 7 movies could all be portrayed in retrospect as which side is he actually on. But watching this movie, if you're watching it for the first time in real time, you are so close to the volcano finally bubbling over, to the whatever metaphor, right? To the pot finally bubbling over, right? You're so close to the truth finally being revealed that there's so much extra scrutiny on every single word that he's delivering. And he just nails it. He absolutely nails it. Remarkable. I think runner-up number 2 goes to Helena Bonham Carter. I think runner-up number 3, Rupert Grint continues to amaze me. He's underrated. Favorite scene?
Favorite scene is the Hermione as Bellatrix, as all of that. Like, that's just such a good scene. I don't know, like, favorite's necessarily the word, but I really enjoyed that one. And then, let's see, I probably wrote another one down. And really all the Maggie Smith stuff. Those are ones I just enjoyed this movie. Yours?
Yeah, I could go with either of the major Rickman ones. So either Snape in the Great Hall or Snape in the Boathouse, because both of those were incredible. But I actually think one of the ones we talked about earlier, the Voldemort Harry perspective flip as Harry falls off of the dragon into the water, and you see all the Horcruxes flashing through Voldemort's eyes, all the murder.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was really, really, really well done from a production standpoint, and
yeah,
it was chilling, and it was insane and intense, and it was a really cool sensory experience. I really liked that. Most surprising thing for you having consumed this film?
I really enjoyed this one a lot. Like, I might rank this as my top of the series. And this is probably one of the ones that I've watched the least, just because I tend to try to start from the beginning and don't ever get to the end.
I don't know that I found anything overly surprising here. This is a movie that I've always liked, with the notable exception that I just don't love how they handle a lot of that Harry Voldemort fight. throughout the castle, but
Yeah.
okay, whatever. I guess biggest surprise, maybe things that I noticed. I'll go with that for this one. I noticed for the first time, around the Gringotts scenes, a lot of like the inspiration there for what has formed things throughout the real world, right? At Universal. Thought that was really, really cool, just as an observation. I had never really put together before that Neville murdered a bunch of people. So that was, I guess, surprising in and of itself. So I'll go with those as my two big ones, as being able to see inspirations throughout the studio tour and theme park world of Harry Potter, derived from the movie sets and movie scenes, and then Neville being a mass murderer. That should be the title of this episode.
If you were to rank the movies from your favorite to least, what is your ranking?
But see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is a perfect transition, because if we had really efficiently and effectively planned, we would have had just a little small note that I could have referenced that just had like a quick 3-word summation of how I felt about each of the previous films as we recorded these episodes. But I don't remember what the hell I said for any of those. So I'm just going to do this live as we go here. Let me get a clean piece of paper. Which was the one I was really surprised that I liked? Was it 2? It was one of the earlier ones I was surprised.
It wasn't 1. We both liked 2.
All right, so look, Goblet is the absolute bottom. Let me write it down here. I know that. Goblet's the worst, by and away. Then I believe...
Can you place your number 1 pick?
Well, hang on. Let me.
You're going to try to do it in order.
Yeah, because I'm kind of sort of stuck between a couple at the top, and I'm hoping if I work my way backwards, I'll get to it. Goblet's my least favorite. That's easy. Did I like Stone at all?
We really struggled because that's the one that we were like, how is this movie still going?
All right, so Stone is second to worst. Then it's the introduction of Gambin. I know Alfonso Cuarón did a great job, but I'm sorry, Azkaban, third bottom. I'm going to go Chamber after that. Then I'll go Half-Blood. So I've got 3 left. I've got both of the Hallows, and I've got Order. Gut instinct, if I'm not thinking about it, tells me to go Hallows 2, tells me to go Order, and then my number 1 is Deathly Hallows 1. Maybe tomorrow morning, if I were to do this, I'd flip Order and Hallows 1. But so if I'm doing that from favorite to least favorite, Deathly Hallows 1, Order 2, Deathly Hallows 2 in third, Half-Blood 4th, Chamber 5th, Azkaban 6th, Stone 7th, Goblet is just so far below even the most mediocre of student films. What about you?
Ours are pretty close. I completely forgot about Azkaban when I was doing this because I was just thinking 7, not 8. Part 2 is going to be my top. And then part 1, I think Half-Blood, then Order, then Chamber, Goblet, and then Stone.
Well, you're missing Azkaban.
Azkaban. Oh, right. I would put Azkaban in 4th place.
So above Order?
Above Order, after Half-Blood.
Azkaban.
I think.
Order.
This might change tomorrow.
Chamber. You said Stone was your least?
Yeah.
You dislike Stone more than Goblet?
I think the experience of watching Stone was worse than rewatching Goblet just because it just felt so long. And I think that I'm associating that more than the actual movie.
So we agree on 0 of these. You're looking at your list that doesn't include Azkaban, which is why you think that we agree on a couple of them.
Without Azkaban, we were pretty close.
Yeah, but that's without a whole movie. So, interesting.
We've made it through all 8 movies.
We've made it through all 8 movies. but I will say that today on the day of recording is Sarah Jones Dittmeyer's birthday. Sarah, happy birthday. Many happy returns to you. Hopefully you get a big pink cake that hopefully a large Ophi half giant didn't sit on halfway through his journey. Yeah. So that's all I got.
That's all I have.
Goodbye.
Now, if you two don't mind, I'm going to bed before either of you come up with another clever idea to get us killed. Or worse, expelled.